Good morning. Must be Saturday. It's Lindsay. Yeah, so another beautiful day. Aren't we blessed? We might be locked in lockdown, but the weather has been glorious. We do need a bit of rain though, don't we? We do need a bit of rain. So what's God been talking to me about today? Or this week? Well, a lot of the time he's been talking to me about the bruised reed. And I didn't know what, I just kept getting the bruised reed. So it comes from Isaiah, but it is mentioned in Matthew. So I want to read you two different versions because they just have a different take on it. And yeah, and then I'll do my usual splurge. So the first one is from the NIV. And it's titled, so it's Matthew 12, and I'm going to start reading at verse 15 through to 21. So in the NIV it says, God's chosen servant. Aware of this, Jesus withdrew to that place. Many followed him, and he healed all their sick, warning them not to tell who he was. This was to fulfill what the prophet was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. Here is my servant, whom I have chosen, the one I love, in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will proclaim justice to the nations. He will not quarrel or cry out. No one will hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smouldering wick he will not snuff out, till he leads justice and victory. In his name the nations will put their hope. So that's the NIV. And then the Message. Okay, and the Message calls it In Charge of Everything. Jesus, knowing they were out to get him, moved on. A lot of people followed him, and he healed them all. He also cautioned them to keep it quiet, following guidelines set down by Isaiah. Look well at my hand-picked servant. I love him so much. Take such delight in him. I have placed my spirit on him. He'll decree justice to the nations, but he won't yell, won't raise his voice. There'll be no commotion in the streets. He won't walk over everyone's feelings, won't push you into a corner, and before you know it, his justice will triumph. The mere sound of his name will signal hope, even among far-off believers. Wow. There's a lot packed into those two. I know they're the same thing, but there is a lot packed into them. And sometimes it's good when we've done something that we feel that passage says that God said to us, well done, my faithful servant. And we might be feeling that because we've been in lockdown and we've followed the rules where others have, shall we say. And yet, it clearly says, God will not harm a bruised reed. How does he put it here? He won't push you into a corner. He won't walk over everyone's feelings. And sometimes we struggle with what God asks us to do, and we feel he is pushing us into a corner, or we feel he is not taking into our consideration our feelings. But he knows what's best for us. And he knows that if we went our own way, which we still have the choice to do, or if we do the things that we're desperate to do, that actually it might cause us more harm. You might hurt the feelings of a 5-year-old who's pestering you like mad for a penknife, but you're not going to give it him. because you know it's not in his best interests. And I've been thinking quite a lot as I've been running and doing the garden and stuff this week about somebody that we met in our first parish. There was Christian social workers attached to the parish who, it was quite a deprived area, and they helped with single mums, people that were bereaved, people that were struggling with their benefits. They did lots of amazing stuff, and there were two of them, they're lovely ladies, both of them. But one of them lived a few streets away from where we were living, and her husband was quite a character. And we'd chat to him when we saw him and stuff. And his first comment whenever he saw us, well, you won't be making a Christian out of me. And that was always his opening line, and he said it with a joke and a twinkle in his eye. And I said to him, why not? Why not? Why are you so determined? Well, he'd say, quite indignant, because God had asked me to give up the booze and the fags and the GGs. And I used to smile and say, he wouldn't ask you to do that, because he'd know that would cause you a heart attack, and we'd have a joke and we'd have a laugh about it. And there are people out there that don't want to believe in God because they feel he's a God of restrictions, and they feel he's a God of rules and regulations, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And I've not found him to be that way at all. I found him to be a gracious God. Yeah, there's times when I've been cross and he's asked me to do things and I've not been particularly happy about them. And I've learned over the years that actually it's just easier when God asks you to do something to actually get on and do it, because you'll end up doing it in the end anyway. And actually he tends to know what's best for us. You know, he tends to know us so well. And he knows what's good for us and what's not good for us. And there have been tough times, I'm not saying there weren't. You know, there's been times when money's been tough, when we were at college, when he was training with Church Army, or when we first came out of Church Army and we had young children and I wasn't working, we were surviving on one wage. But you know, those are the times when I've really relied on God, when money's been tight and stuff, and we've, you know, okay, we've probably just about had enough, but maybe there's been something that's come up that we've not been able to do, or we've not had the money to do it. And when things have been really, really tough, particularly one incident when we were at college, when obviously we were on a budget because we were students, and there was an issue with the car, and it needed fixing. And we were like, we don't know how we're going to pay for this. We know this is going to be a couple of £100 at least. And, you know, yes, Mum and Dad said, oh, we'll help out, we'll help out. You know, if you need money when you're at college, you must let us know. And we ummed and ahed whether that's what we should be doing, is asking parents. And Hugh and I prayed about it. And we just said, well, we've got to trust, you know, this needs to be done. God knows our needs. We woke up the next morning and the post was there. And in the post was a letter from the police, where, which is what Hugh was. He was a policeman before we went into our Christian ministry. And there'd been a pay rise that had been backdated, I don't know, let's say a year, 18 months, whatever it was quite a big period of time, and that we were to expect a cheque in the next week or so for a certain amount. And when we took the car in and they gave us an estimate for how much it was going to cost, it was all but to the penny of how much it was going to cost to have the car repaired than the money we were going to get in. And I learnt a very valuable lesson there, that to trust God, because He does know what we need and He will provide it. And I know that when this particular person used to say to me, well, he'd asked me to give up these things, and I'd joke with him, that actually God had his best interest at heart, and if he had given his life to Christ, and I don't know whether he ever did give his life to Christ, I don't know what's happening to him, we're talking nearly 30 years ago now. But I know that God might be asking him to give them up, not because he wants to clip his wings or bruise him, but because if he gave up the cigarettes, he would benefit on two levels, because his health would be improved and his finances would be improved, because even back then cigarettes weren't cheap. Again, with the booze, he might not have asked him to give it up completely, he might have asked him to cut it down, but again, his health would have been better and his finances would have been better, and probably the same with the horses. And he might have been able to take his wife on that cruise that he used to joke about them doing. So yeah, it might have seemed in his eyes that it was restricting his lifestyle, but I do wonder whether it would just open up a whole new world to him and give him a different perspective on life, one that he would enjoy more. I don't know. Maybe through lockdown, God has been talking to you about giving up something, or actually doing something that you think, I'm not sure about that. I talked to you last week about that God was talking to me a little bit about money and giving and stuff like that. And he's been talking to me this week about the fact that whatever I give to church, and we do it via the bank, we do a standing order, that actually it's gift aided. So what I give, God increases for the church as well, because we can claim that back, which actually I've never considered. I've just done we've done what we felt was right, and that I hadn't even considered that, but that helped a little bit. That sometimes when you know things are tight and you think you should give more, that actually God's saying, well, actually, even if you give that little bit can be gift aided, which means it can be bigger than you think it is. It could be that he's asking you to stop doing things. I'm very aware that we probably haven't had as many takeaways. Not that we have that many, but we haven't had a lot of takeaways. And actually, do we need them? Stuff like that, and he might be saying to you, well, actually, do you really need that? And what could you do with that if that's what he's speaking to you about? It could be that he's saying, you know what, there's time. You've got a real commodity, time. But he won't back you into a corner, and he won't make you a bruised reed. He might be asking you to do something major. Maybe what you need to do is do a for and against list. If I keep doing this, where am I going to end up? Where if I try and do what God's asking me to do, I don't know, cut down on the alcohol, cut out the cigarettes, whatever it is, I'm just using those as examples. It could be not use the car so much, or cycle more, or whatever. What would the benefits would that be? Sometimes when God asks us to do something, we need to look at the bigger picture and not the immediate impact on our lives. God is an awesome God, an amazing God, and I have enjoyed the things that he's been showing me through lockdown. Some of them are tough, some of them are asking me to do things that will impact on my time, and you could take the attitude of, oh, that's just something else to do. But actually, sometimes the blessings that come with following his word and what he's asking you to do far outweigh the task he's set for us. Maybe that's how the NHS are feeling at the start, They signed up to be nurses and doctors and paramedics, etc., etc. Not really thinking about how it would be in a pandemic. When you join the armed forces, maybe you know you might be called to go to war. I'm not sure when you sign up to be a nurse or a doctor or whatever that you acknowledge that a pandemic could look like ours has. But actually, they're just taking it on the chin. They know what they need to do. They know how to do it, and they've got on with it. Yes, some of them are going to need some help and support afterwards as they process what they've had to see. And I pray God does that for them. But also, there has been an increase in people applying for nurses training, for doctor training, for signing up to be the ones that are on the front line. Wow. How awesome is that? How amazing is that? What's God talking to you about? Let's pray. Lord, I just praise you for the time that we've had to process things, that you have given us time through this pandemic to consider things within our lives, and I'm sure most of us have had the time to do that, Lord. And I pray, Lord, that you will continue to speak to those that you're speaking to now, that you will continue to suggest directions for them to go in. And I pray, Lord, that they will see the blessings as well as the sacrifices that need to be made in order to do it. You are an awesome God who provides for our needs, Lord, and some of our wants. I pray, Lord, that you will come in power and bless those who are struggling and grappling with things at the moment. I pray for those, Lord, who are trying to keep the R number down. And I pray as we gradually ease the lockdowns and we're allowed to do more, that people will use the common sense that you gave them and not take chances and not take risks. May we enjoy being able to meet up with family and friends in the garden and have a barbecue and see them more often, Lord. But may we also be sensible in how we do that, Lord. I pray for those that are working so hard to find a vaccine, to find medicines that can improve the outcome of those that have coronavirus. I pray for those who are fighting this virus at the moment, Lord, that you would just be with them, give them peace, give them all that they need. May there be people around them if they're at home, Lord, that can support them, that can provide the things they need, food, medicine, whatever it is. For those that haven't got it but are having to self-isolate, Lord, I just pray for them. I pray that you will again speak to them. For loved ones, I pray you'll give them a peace, that those that have the virus, that you will give them a peace that nobody else can give, Lord, as to what happens in the future. Pray for those in mourning, Lord. Pray that you will come close to them. Help them to remember the good things about the person that they've lost and to celebrate that life. Lord, I praise you. You are an amazing God, and you are there in the good times and the bad times. I pray, Lord, that as we go through the next week, we will look to you and look to your guidance, knowing that you won't back us into a corner or tread on our feelings, but that you will guide and counsel us in a way that we would benefit if we followed it. Thank you, Lord. You are an amazing God. Praise you. Amen. So let's do the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. So, cheerio, stay safe, enjoy being able to see a few more people, but most of all, remember to wash your hands and to keep your 2 meters.